All right, you guys, we are moving forward with the build. This is some of the plans that I drew up, and I'll kind of go over with it with you guys. This is going to be the basic layout. The orange coloring is going to be the top support structure. The pinks are going to be the actual diagonal holding up the top, and then the green is going to end up being the 90-degree L bracket. I'll get the measurements and everything else for it, but if I remember right, it is 85 inches wide and 90 inches long. So that's on the first part there. So on this here, I just kind of use some graph paper and an online photo. So this is just stock, but this is how it's going to look on the end. Is we're going to end up having the frame, again the top, there'll be a door on the back here, and the rooftop tent being mounted up above. And these are some of the measurements here that we are going to be dealing with. About 30 inches long on the sides, 28 inches high to the bottom or top, and 12.5 inches wide on there. The next one going around, this is just kind of some of my dimensions. I'm basically going to be doing them at 48 inches as the cross members for the mortar to meet up, and 26 on the front, and then 48 and 48 on there. Nothing too special on that. This was what it will look like from the side. As you can tell, it's kind of giving us your height. This is going to be that 28 inches up with the rooftop tent on top. Ours is 76 inches long, so it's going to come just shy of the back, where we can then put an awning. That might be something later on down the road we're going to do. We're going to end up having kind of a little water fill on the side and some of the basics on that. That's just a stock photo. So let me kind of show you, oh, and then that's our last part here. Just got some of the ideas I want for the switches. We're going to have like a cabin light, water pump, rooftop tent power, a floodlight, ground lights, and the cooler. Probably put all those on an individual switch. We'll kind of play up, see what we have. And then these are some of the dimensions of how much of each one I need by their lengths. So when I go to get the steel, we can go and do it. I was supposed to do this build with aluminum, and that's why this is taking so long. Is my friend that does the aluminum welding has not been able to get with me to assist doing it. So since we're getting back into our camping season, we're moving forward with it. All right, so I am going to end up putting the actual photo up, probably instead of this in front of you. This is just one of the drawings I found from someone that did theirs online, and some of the ideas they had, and I liked it. So I'm kind of using some of their stuff. This is just how they had their stuff, where they had it, and how I'm changing that up is we're going to end up having, again, the bed slide that we've gone over a little bit. This will be storage up on the sides, the battery box, some of the power inputs that we'll need, our water. Not sure what we're going to put here. It might be a battery, might be something else. We're not 100% sure. I'll probably put our pump about right here for the water pump. The propane tank will be here. And then this is just what it would look like when it is closed. Again, you know, the same type of stuff as stovetop, the sink, the water. I forget what that one is. I'll have to look it up. And the cooler slash powered refrigerator will end up going here. This might be one of those things that later on down the road we have to play with and see what we like in what position. Something might not flow together very well, so we might end up adding something or taking something out. But we'll know that when we get there. All right, we've moved to the next stage where we've got the basic laid out. This is going to be for the top part the rooftop tent will actually mount to. We've got our corners squared up. Going to measure it out before doing some tack welds. Let's finish all up and we'll go from there. All right, so next we are using, I like to call it L bracket, but it's angle iron. And for this, how we decided to go ahead and do it, we are going to do a upper lip on this front. As you can see, it is sticking up, and that's going to let our top bracket coming in, it's going to line up kind of like that. On this back corner here, what we did is we cut out a little bit of that so it's going to meet flat, so we can weld those right there. And we put that on. We drilled out the holes. We basically lined it up like that, and we came in with a paint marker, measured where the holes are at and marked it. So we can kind of show you, if you were looking back here, we laid it down like that, kind of marked it, and then pulled up, made a little pin mark. So this will give us our side, and then we're going to end up connecting in like we did on the other one, where it actually connects in here coming upwards, which we'll get to next. All right, so sorry we've skipped a couple stages here. I've just been trying to get this thing done. We've got an event coming up in a few weeks, and just haven't had the time to get some of the video. But as you can tell, we've got most of this together here. This is going to be the very front of it. So as you can tell, the 90-degree wall coming down is sitting on that bottom and coming across. That'll be the front wall. So you've got the 90s that will come down. You saw how we cut those out so they'll fit in. This here will all end up being paneling, and we've still got some runs to come across the middle, which we're measuring and cutting. And then this is going to be from the back end, and we'll have one more post coming down here that ends up meeting, actually right about here, at the bottom. So we're gonna have to get that back on the trailer to get those measurements and get that. We're gonna finish working on the top here first. Just kind of want to give you a in the middle of the process update. All right, as you can tell, we just got this placed up on it. This is gonna be the overall look. This is just a pre-test fit. So as you can tell, the bolts line up with that. This is how our cuts are on that. This is going to have a little bit of a gap, and I'll show you how we're going to take care of that. I've actually found some stuff to basically, rubber seals and stuff to keep that out, so we'll be able to handle that. We will end up putting a barrier in between these two so we don't end up scratching the liner off as much as we can. And then we're gonna come in here and start doing this part here to build that up. All right, so as you can see, we've got this on as a test fit, and here's our two holes. We haven't done this, so we're gonna line this up and line our outside edge. I'm gonna just visually kind of look at the distancing, and I'm gonna mark over here where we want this to come to an end, so we know to cut there. And like we talked earlier, I'm gonna slide this back just a little bit. I'm gonna mark where our holes are for those two. And then we're going to go and do some test cuts on this. All right, so as you can see, this is what we ended up making. We got our two holes already, and we're just going to come back, line it up before we do some tack welds. So line it up, we're going to test our holes. Let's bring you around. So as you see, we still got to cut the angle of that off like we did on the front, but we've got almost even spacing across the back, level out, and then from here this will come to the top to give it a little bit more. So that looks good. Let's go check the other side. So we'll go ahead and loosen those bolts up to let it come up a little bit and make sure it fits. All right, so we went ahead and got this part completely finished up last night. We've got the self-etching primer that we sprayed on after sanding down the metal, doing all that fun stuff. I'm not going to go in great detail about how to weld and prep metal. There's plenty of videos out there on there. What I did is I initially did the self-etching primer, which is what kind of got this green color. And then we went back and we went ahead and sprayed it with this blue. It's just kind of an extra can of paint that I had. Really, we were trying to do the underside of it. Might be harder to see that coloring, but then we know we got all of what needed to get sprayed, while at the same time I went ahead and started a spray coat on the top layers just so that it's got one more layer of paint. And we're gonna start spraying this thing in black and start moving forward with getting it back on, getting just kind of everything bolted up, and then we're moving on to getting the pull-out bed truck in there. So as you can tell, this will be from the back of the trailer. This will end up being the complete opening, and this is the exact same width of the actual bed trailer. So everything kind of matches up, and we'll end up putting some of our equipment down here for switches or panels, lights, whatever we need. I haven't fully gone into exactly what I want yet, but this is just kind of a good overview of what we've got going. All right, so we are getting ready to put the bed slide in. As you can tell, we've kind of lifted it up. It's kind of heavy, so we're going to just kind of record to show you guys how to get this up with two people. We can slide it. Do not do something who's gonna hurt yourself. I got about an inch to go. good for right now. All right, so as you can tell, we've got this set in temporarily, and we have come forward. We obviously got to clean it up here, but we went ahead and marked our spots. It's going to be on the upriser of the 3. We drilled an initial hole, and coming up underneath, let's show you where that's coming out. It's I believe right up in there. Yep, there we go. We're just gonna get some bolts now, drill the hole a little bit bigger and get it bolted. All right, as you can tell, we have drilled the 2 holes out in the front. We're doing the wide washer, so we ended up getting 5/16. And I'll put some price ups of, I think it was $33 for the boxes. I'll have plenty of extras. And we're gonna go ahead and bolt this down. All right, so as you can see, we've finally got this up on top. We've moved it back in the garage to do some work. So we are using some of the sponge window seal to do the edges until it's going to compress. We do know we got a little bit here, which we knew. We're going to end up using some silicone, and our sheet of aluminum will be coming down the front to cover that anyway, so it's not a big deal on that part. How we're doing this is we basically put the front one on, had it lifted, compressed it. My wife then lifted the second side up as I slid this in. I'm going to try to get it on film this go around. All right, so starting on here. Just gonna lay it out, let her grab that front corner. Yep. All the way back, now she's just gonna lift in the middle and I'll slide it all up underneath. A little tension on the back, go ahead and go down. And it's done. Cut off the extra, drill our holes out, and we'll be good to go. All right, so you get this hole, what I'm doing is just taking a little flamethrower, screwdriver. We're gonna heat that end up. And we're just going in and walling our hole out. All right, and as you see, we have this in place now. We've also got the cargo slide locked in, and we're kind of going over just the basic functionality. We did learn on here we could not use the factory big washer, but it's got the locking nut on it. The washer was coming too far over where it was going to hit the aluminum as it came down. As you can see, that weather stripping is nice and sealed in there though. It's got a good tight bond. We did have to end up drilling one hole right here in the middle, is just a little bit flexible. So what we did is we ended up drilling a hole right there. You came on the bottom side with a nut. It made it where it just won't move now. So it's solid down. Looking at it from the front, as you can tell, it fits in the garage. It literally, on a standard garage door, it is just about to touch right here. So just barely squeezes in. Obviously, once we put the rooftop tent on, it will not do that anymore. Looking at our basic design for coming in, the propane tank's gonna be in that back corner. I think the battery's gonna be over here. Pretty sure we're gonna end up using this for some of our tire chocks and stuff like that. A second battery might end up here depending on how we decide. We're still kind of in the game of some of that. But let me show you how well this thing works. Because this being slid all the way in, as you can tell. So we designed for it to be that close. So that's not touching. Not gonna make any noise. When you get somewhere, you can put this down if needed. Pull this out. So this is going to be our standard length that we will use. I'll have to get an exact measurement. I'm going to say it's about 3 feet, and this will be for all of our kitchen stuff that we need to use. But as you see, getting into some of the farther stuff, still a little bit of a distance. So the nice part is this pulls that little bit extra, locks in place, and now I can reach everything on that back corner without stretching at all. So that was why we did this. The only bad thing about putting to the full length, as you see, it kind of kicks it up at a little bit of an incline, which is why we're not going to use this all the way out most of the time, because although I'm tall, my wife's not. So we'll leave this in at about that height there. Let me see if I can get a video of that height for you. All the way in. Like I said, that'll be our normal kitchen. And now we'll raise it up just that little bit if I need to get in that back corner to reach that back corner right here. Alright, just kind of going over a quick layover. We originally actually thought we were going to put the refrigerator over here and then realized it was going to be so close to the cooktop that the heat was going to be an issue. So we ended up moving it to this side, which actually kind of works out because we've got our battery over here. So a little bit less running of some power, not a big deal. We've got one of these kitchen slide outs. This here is actually going to get turned sideways, where it is able to slide out. So if I am cooking, I'm able to grab my utensils off the top, but it'll also slide out, so if I'm working from the side, to be able to get whichever you need. Moving on to our propane, we are mounting one of our power tank holders right here, and it is just mounted through that, nice and easy. And that holds our small propane tank down right there, still easily accessible. And over on this side, she's had these bins. We're probably going to end up doing some 90-degree angle, probably aluminum, and screwing it down just so these can't slide off, make it nice and easy. Believing our battery's going to go here. It's going to go in a battery box. I don't think that's just going to stay open like that. We've got a little inverter. We'll end up mounting that about right here on the side, so it gives us our plugs towards where we'll be at. I use the Milwaukee tools a lot out there. We use the light and everything else, so that's going to end up getting mounted right here on the inside. Remind you, all this is going to be encased in, so it won't be out in the elements. We just have to hold off on doing some of that till we get that in. Again, this is it in the cook position, and then if we are needing to go further, oh, I'm sorry, this is all the way out. So that was all the way out, and this is the partial regular cooking, the regular time that we'd be doing it. We can come up here, undo our latches, and get in. When we also originally had this on the other side, we didn't think about that this compressor part is right here. So this is the higher spot. With it being here, it actually works better because we don't have to reach down far, and we can still reach down far onto this side. All right, so this is the sum of the stuff that we have ordered for the build. You know, everyone's trailer's got to be used a little bit differently. This is just how we want to build ours. This is going to be our outdoor sink. As you can see, it just folds up. This will actually end up fitting either in the front of the slide or to either one of the sides. We just decided this way instead of having it on the actual bed slide. This gives a little bit more maneuverability around campsites and changing things up how we wanted it. It was like $110, and we couldn't really find anything that worked better for the price. Most of the sinks were running about $145 to $160 just for a sink, so it just didn't seem to work out. So this was a good option for us on that part. Moving over here real quick, I do a lot of stuff around the house, working under cars and stuff. So it's nice to have fans. These have magnets and everything else, but these are also going to be stuff that we can use while out camping and using them on the trailer to give us airflow while we're standing around at the campsite. So that's what we're using those for. This is going to be kind of a floodlight. It's got some different ways to attach. It's got both magnet, and this part here moves up so we can clamp it onto the trailer and use it that way. So these are just some of those campsite stuff. Back here is going to be one of the single butane stoves. I think it was like $45 or $50 from Walmart. My wife will be using that for when she wants to heat up her coffees and stuff like that to the side, where she can take it off the bed where I'm not cooking and making breakfast or anything like that, and she can use it somewhere else. This is going to be some of our tubing. Don't probably have to go over all the dimensions, but this is going to be 1.5. This is going to be our fill valve for our tank. We've got 2 of these, one going on each side of the front. We'll take you out there in a minute and show you those. We've gone ahead and put in our lower. This will end up running between the left side and the right side, and using a T on it to go ahead and tee that off to the actual water pump. If you remember this was done on our last trailer. If you're not familiar with it, this was just a setup in a box we did. It's got a quick plug on the front, and we could lay this out in our trailer hooked to our water tank. But this go around, we're going to pull that out. We're going to permanently mount it and have it set 100%. The next part here is going up is you're going to have your 90, I believe that's a 5/8, and that's going to be our vents going up. We've got our vents here. Again, most of the stuff was bought on Amazon, pretty cheap. And we will get some of those links for you guys on the prices. Back here, we've got some of our trim. This will be used on the sides that we're doing. It's kind of hard to see what it is exactly. There we go. So that will go where the aluminum siding goes in, and this gives us our compression seal. We'll go over all that later too. All right, a couple more little items came in that we're going to start kind of just checking off the list, make sure we got everything in before doing the install. We've got a nice little tiny switch panel here. It's going to be, for the interior for the switches. It is waterproof, could put it on the outside, but probably going to be on the inside just for long-term ability. This is going to be an outside plug so that when it is parked here at the house or even at a campsite, we can go ahead and plug it in if we wanted to have power inside for the trickle charger or anything else. Battery cutoff switch, always important. It's going to be a new propane line. Since we've got the new slide out, we need a little bit more distance than the one that we had. Also putting a splitter in since we're going to have the water heater and the actual water tank and just kind of, and the cooktop for that. We're going to go ahead and put these little guys in on the inside so that we can strap stuff down and kind of bungee to it, kind of some interior ways. We originally ordered these ones here. I'll give you the link. These ones ended up, the holes were a little bit smaller than what I was thinking. And instead of drilling each one of them out for the size holes I need, I just went back and found these ones and bought them for about the same price. These are going to be on the corners. They're actually going to be kind of sideways like that. They'll stand as the backup lights and also as a floodlight for the campsite if needed for setting anything up. These are going to be some of the nuts and bolts to hold all the stuff together. This, I believe, is going to be the vent tube by the size of it to run that up. We showed you guys the vents yesterday, and then the box through there. My wife's gone ahead and packed in a lot of the stuff. Let's take you to that and let you see it. All right, I know we might be jumping around a little bit because the different stages that we have it in, but we were trying to make sure that everything would fit the way that we wanted it to. So it's kind of in some of the pre-thing, you're gonna have to load stuff and unload and load and unload. So this is kind of how it is right now. And we're still playing with some of the sizes and everything a little bit, but this is how it works. This is that nice little sink and cutting table that we have. It fits down here on the side of the slide, still comes out. This will end up actually being put up over on the battery, of course. Empty box for right now. We're not sure what will be going in that. She got a little storage side. This here I'll cover as we get a little bit further along. It's something we had extra in the house anyways. I can basically grab any of my stuff and then it's going to slide out to the side. Cooler stayed in the spot. We'll end up actually having some 90-degree L bracket, angle bracket down here. So as we're driving down the road, this can't fall off. You gotta still grab some of that. She's got in some of her waterproof buckets, even though it's going to be completely enclosed. These were stuff that we bought years ago for basically wet weather and always having it. Some coolers, some of the basic black and yellow containers you can get from Costco, from Lowe's, that type of stuff. This is going to be our water tank. We're still looking at it. I'm not sure again if it's going to be back pushed on this side, leaving all of my electronics and wires here, or if we're going to spin it around and have that all on this side. That's one of those things we still got to look at. I've got to kind of put them both in. We're going to pull this out this weekend, which for you would be about 1 second, and take all this out, just try fitting everything in the way that we need it. But this is kind of a good test fit. You see we've got space in the front for stuff still, just a little bit of everything. So this is the time for you to figure out what's going to work for you, because just this works for us and our style of camping. It might not work for your style of camping. All right, so originally we were going to use this type of hinge mount, but I think we're going to go with a piano mount instead. We've got that coming in the mail. Got some of our screws and bolts coming in and nuts, and this is just going to be the stuff for bolting all of these sides on. As you see, the power switch, got that on here. We'll go over that a little bit more. And this is going to be our inlet for the water that we'll go over also. Let's go outside and take a look at the trailer. All right, so the last little bit for this video, I guess this is going to be part 1 and part 2, which I wasn't trying to do, but we went ahead and we had some aluminum siding that they use for some of the like utility trailers. That's real thin, super thin on it. But what we did is we put that down below the grill so that anything that spills, it's easy to clean up. We can set our utensils here, we can clean it easily. To keep this from falling out, we ended up putting 2 small screws through it. So you can see it can lift up, so I can tilt it forward or backwards depending upon if I have something really greasy, it can drain it out. Or if it's something like eggs where I want it to go to the back, I can tilt it up by just pushing a small piece of wood below it. So that's kind of on there. We have kind of figured these out. We're going to put the switches are going to end up kind of up in this configuration. It might have a little bit of an angle. We're probably going to grab some aluminum and start bending on it and see what we can do. As mentioned, we figured out the battery top. We're going to put it right on top of it. The power inlet is going to go right where that little tiny white cross is, which lets you plug in from the outside right there. We ended up getting 3 cigarette lighters to mount in here, and this is going to be the new inverter because the other one blew. So we'll be able to kind of plug that in and kind of just go through that. I'm going to get some of this put back together, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm hoping to have it maybe in another week or two for you guys. And just before we go, if you can tell, this is going to be all the aluminum siding. We've got our piece for the front, the rear. This one's going to be for the top. It will end up getting bent, kind of hanging over. And that's going to be the two sides. We've obviously got to cut it down. And after purchasing this, I have a feeling I'm going to do a build cost video, because that one hurt my pocket a lot more than I was expecting. It really did.